So let's pick up from our previous video where we were talking about the amazing soundtrack that this game has. If you guys haven't seen the video yet, I'll have the card linked to the upper right of your screen so you guys can check it out. Alright, back on topic. So the soundtrack in this game was just perfect, from being used as an eloquent sounding complement to an area like the underground caverns portion of the castle, to being used to increase the intensity of a situation, for example, fighting several bosses throughout the game. This is one aspect where Castlevania Symphony of the Night truly excels. The soundtrack that plays fighting certain bosses truly extenuate the experience. One in particular soundtrack that we're talking about is the soundtrack called Festival Servants. This is the first boss soundtrack that we the players hear in the game, starting off with a guitar play that alerts the players that they're about to encounter a challenging obstacle, then transitions to a fast-paced steady beat that gives so much hype to the fight. Then it melds it all together with a scaling organ soundtrack that gives off a gothic theme encounter. But overall, this whole soundtrack was a great introduction to the bosses that we encountered throughout the castle. I never would imagine that I would be treated to such a great soundtrack where it gave you such a rush and amplifies the whole boss experience, ranging from fighting Gaibon and Slagra to fighting Alucard's doppelganger. The next boss soundtrack that we the players get a great treat from is called the Poetic Ballad of Death, which this soundtrack is used for the more powerful encounters to some bosses throughout the game. This soundtrack gives off a sense of peril. Knowing what we're facing is truly an abomination to the world. It almost makes your stature seem small when going up against some of the bosses with the soundtrack. As if it can't be emphasized enough that whatever we're fighting is already a grotesque monstrosity. With an overpowering beat that lets the players know that we have to be on our toes the whole fight, or we'll be completely overwhelmed by the sheer power of our opponents. All of this is extenuated by the variety of boss monsters that we face throughout the game, each with its particular challenges that make us players feel on edge. I did notice that this soundtrack really represents the otherworldly side of a twisted hell that shows a variety of demons and monsters that it has in its arsenal, ranging from fighting against a hippogriff to fighting one of the most powerful bosses in the game, Galamoth, which I'll talk more about him later on in the video. Other specific soundtracks that play for us in the game is when we either fight against Succubus or Medusa, with it starting off with a steady opera lady screaming in the background. With a beat that gives off a sense of dread, there was something really creepy with the soundtrack. It almost made me sick when I first heard it, where it was a blend of the opera lady and mixed it with the highs and lows of a steady organ music. I really enjoyed the aspect that this was used for certain boss fights that we the players had some sort of motivation to really destroy the heck out of a demon in front of us, especially the Succubus. Alright, so one of my most favorite boss soundtracks of this game is the soundtrack that plays when we fight against the vampire hunter himself, Richter Belmont. The soundtrack itself is a remix or alteration to the Bloodlines soundtrack from the previous game Rondo of Blood. It's just great to hear the once heroic theme used in a different way and transform into a boss theme. I remember I could go on hours listening to the soundtrack over and over. There was something about the intro or the beginning of the soundtrack that was brooding, building itself up until we finally get a very nostalgic piece from the previous game. So Castlevania Symphony of the Night has been known for its user-friendly side-scrolling controls, an amazing soundtrack, but also adding the many awesome bosses throughout the game made it even more memorable. Let's go back and start off with the very first boss encounter in the game, which I mentioned their names earlier, Gaibon or Slagra. We meet them both towards the end of the alchemy laboratory area. I remember my initial thought was that this boss battle was pretty damn cool, having a 2 versus 1 encounter and seeing those two work together in tandem to take you down. From Slagra, who looks like a pterodactyl-like demon with a spear, to Gaibon looking like more of a traditional gargoyle demon who spits out fire. Each boss with a specific movesets and combinations. We could learn real quick what they're all about, ranging from them trying to smash you when Gaibon lifts off Slagra in the air and proceeds to drop it while having the spear pointed towards you, to having them do their own individual attacks. I really enjoyed the details in this game in a scenario where if you damage either boss, they would either lose a weapon, which is in Slagra's case, or they change color and having a more devastating attack, which is in Gaibon's case. This overall was a fun intro boss battle to the game. It wasn't particularly difficult to beat both bosses, but it was enough to keep you honest and not slack off when you're facing against both of them. So we get our first taste of what to expect in this game after our first boss battle. But playing as Alucard, we're going to be facing a lot more demons and monsters throughout the game, each with their particular strategies and movesets that we the players have to adapt to. Ranging from fighting Alucard's doppelganger to going up against both the werewolf/minotaur boss combo. So maybe in the future I can make a strategy guide for certain bosses in the future. But anyways, there were certainly specific bosses in this game that not only stood out from the rest, but also gave so much tension and memories that I just wanted to share my thoughts on them. These 4 specific bosses are Galamoth, Beelzebub, Grand Falloon, and Richter Belmont. Starting off with Grand Falloon, with our only encounter with it will be when we are exploring the catacombs of the castle. So as a new player, we walk into a large area and notice all the bones on the floor, thinking what the heck has happened to have all the human remains pile up so high. But it's not long after that the boss appears from the ground, levitating to the middle of our screen, with his body taking much of the space, while at the same time we the players notice this giant levitating monster is actually made out of a ball of naked bodies. I couldn't even imagine the trauma that Alucard had to experience seeing this monster drop human corpses down on the floor. But I guess thinking that raining bodies from the sky wasn't bad enough, the corpse itself starts to move and heads towards Alucard. This is a type of boss that is nightmare fuel that no one would want to see in their lifetime. The worst part of it was that the more we attacked the monster, the more corpses that would fall and eventually walk towards us. But also if we really pay attention, when we destroy part of his body, we hear what sounds like human beings screaming in agony. That added detail really made me quench when I first noticed it, but I guess we can finally answer as to why the whole room was filled with bones. But after hacking and slashing away its body, we eventually reveal its middle core, where it's comprised of long tentacles that shoot laser beams at us. Eventually the monster meets its end after so many hits. It will spin in the air into a ball of flames and dissipate. As someone who has played so much video games, it was awesome to see a monster that was created to be a complete abomination to the world. The next demon that we the players face is a monster called Beelzebub. With this monster located in the alchemy laboratory area of the reverse castle, we the players are in shock to see this humanoid rotting corpse hoisted up with giant hooks throughout his body. Like seriously, who in their right mind thought of such a grotesque monster, seeing his flesh rotting away, exposing bones and organs, and having giant flies hovering around his body. And if we want to talk about agony, this is the perfect picture for it, knowing this creature is still alive while having its flesh ripped apart while at the same time having maggots and flies eating at its body. At the same time, we the players are hacking and slashing away its body, destroying one portion at a time. I couldn't imagine the horrors that this monster is going through while being impaled by all the hooks on its body. The boss fight itself wasn't difficult as long as we used the high ground and attack him from above while at the same time avoiding the hordes of flies that chase after you. I'll be honest though, talking about this monster and its appearance almost made me sick. So moving on to the most powerful boss in Symphony of the Night, Galamoth. I've mentioned this boss a couple times before in this video, and I can't emphasize enough how difficult it was to defeat this foe. After reaching the innermost depths of the catacombs of the reverse castle, here we are presented with a gigantic demon with a humanoid body while having what looks like the face of a dragon. While wielding a large staff that can summon electricity to damage the players, to hurling giant spheres of electricity, or maybe charging up to release a wall of lightning. Alucard is literally no higher than Belmont's knee. We can't even see the face of this monster most of the time since he's so massive. The few times that we do see his face is when he's trying to electrocute you with a stream of lightning, having his face look weirdly happy. If that's not bad enough, he can also attempt to kick you just to emphasize how small you are in stature compared to him. With his massive amounts of health, the attacks that are difficult to avoid, and the massive damage we're dealt with when hit by him, truly made this boss battle such a challenging experience. We the players have to be completely prepared to face this demon. If not, then we stand no chance of defeating it. Overall, it was a great treat to have this boss in this game. It made players like me who enjoyed the thrill of challenging boss battles against a godly powerful being. So moving on to my favorite boss in the game and fighting against the legendary vampire hunter himself, Richter Belmont. So after initially playing as him at the beginning of the game, we finally meet him once when we're traversing through the castle's Colosseum area, where he claims the castle to be his.
You're a Belmont! Attack! Rid my castle of this pest!
But after reaching the top of Castle Keep, we find ourselves face to face with the vampire hunter himself. With a brief dialogue as to why he sided with evil, he finally initiates the start of the battle with a Holy Cross attack.
Once a century, one chance for each Belmont to shine, and then we're finished. Forgotten. If I bring him back now, the battle can last for eternity.
Here Richter has the arsenal of all the holy weapons that we the players have used throughout the game, ranging from him using holy water to him throwing crosses at us. While also using his physical movesets where he dashes towards us, which causes you to be thrown across the room, to performing dashes on the floor, and also the additions to the attacks from his signature whip. All of this melded together to make a fun boss battle experience. It's almost like fighting against ourselves because we the players have experienced playing as Richter himself. But after the ensuing battle, he'll stop midway and charge up to become a more lethal version of himself. Starting off by using a Hydrostorm attack, then hunting the players using a flame-imbued whip, while using the variety of other holy weapons in his sleeve. It was such an enjoyable experience for us players to fight against Richter, seeing this once protagonist become corrupted to the side of evil. But if we finish certain aspects to the storyline, we actually find out that he was just being controlled by Shaft, a priest who plans to resurrect Dracula. Depending on our playthrough, we can either defeat Richter outright and get the bad ending, or do the necessary playthrough and destroy Shaft that's controlling Richter and get the better ending.
Belmont. So, the war between humans and vampires finally ends here. What need for the shepherd when the wolves have all gone, huh? My time. It's over now.
Alright, so thank you guys for watching my video. If you guys enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I'll be uploading the third part of this analysis video in the following weeks, but I'll be uploading more Resident Evil and Devil May Cry content, so be sure to look out for that, or maybe check out my other videos on my channel. Anyways, thank you guys so much and have a great day.